We've officially entered what I'm going to call the Agamatsu era of Deepwoken. Weekly updates are gradually shifting away from legendary weapons and focusing on replayable content like last week's update, which is the subject of today's video. In this update, we were made aware of a trial awaiting us in the depths. Turns out that it wasn't just a trial awaiting us, it was a man. Sorry, not a man, but a creature. Or a creature calling itself the Gaunt Man. It calls itself the Gaunt Man, although it's clearly anything but. Whatever this thing is, it warps us into a server, where we fight an electrified Squibbo, a black megalodon that shoots lasers, and a three-headed deep owl. What's happened to the game that I love? Regardless, it's my job to break this down in any possible way that I can. Lord help me, because explaining this one might take some extra effort. Remember to subscribe if you like watching this video. You help me, I help you, etc, etc. Let's get straight into uncovering the lore behind the Gaunt Man and his mysterious minions. So the first thing you've probably noticed is that the Gaunt Man is in fact not actually a man. He's alive, yes, but he's certainly not human. If you didn't gather that from his appearance, a mixture of Slender Man and Jimin from BTS, you'll gather it from his dialogue, because he's certainly not trying to hide it. If you make the trek down to his hiding place near a gorge in the depths, he'll address you with tentative curiosity, clearly unfamiliar with how humans speak. I don't get fucking paid enough for this shit. My apologies, I still had my lips closed. I'm still learning the interplay of muscle groups required for speech. Yeah. Anyway, yes, let me reiterate. Would you assist me in an experiment? Sure, I love experiments. What do I need to do? I would like to test the lethality of the various forms of wildlife of this region. So you want me to fight some monsters? Monsters, I suppose that is one description. Will you assist me? Well, that was certainly forward. It may not be obvious with what I've quoted here, but the Gaunt Man does actually give us the option to back out before we engage in this trial, and there aren't actually any repercussions that come of it. We don't really have a boss like this in-game besides... Oh, the Ferryman. I'll cut to the chase. I think there are two possibilities here. Either the Gaunt Man is some new type of creature that we've never seen before, or the Gaunt Man is a Cruon, like his counterpart, the Ferryman. The second option is what we'll be discussing today, as the first doesn't have any substance to it, because there's nothing like the Gaunt Man in-game, so we've got no idea what he is if we think he's the first in a whole new species. So instead, we'll be going back to another Cruon theory. Yes, I know, it's another Cruon theory, and I did swear off them after the whole Primadon is a Cruon incident, but do try to work with me here. There's a ton of similarities between the Gaunt Man and the Ferryman that could potentially link the two together as Cruons. For starters, they're both obviously not human. In addition, they both hold trials wherein the player wagers their life in the pursuit of some potential reward. In the Ferryman's case, we wager our lives for a potential reward of relics or his Cruon knife. In the Gaunt Man's case, we wager our lives for a potential reward of exclusive items and enchants. It's the same kind of concept here. We know that Cruons love their games, and we see the same thing. The Gaunt Man has also likely changed form recently. He says he's still learning the interplay of muscle groups required for speech. If he's never spoken before, there would be no reason for him to be born with a mouth, meaning that he's likely recently adopted one at will. We know that Cruons can take any form they wish, so I'd also like to add this to the tally of similarities. We also know that they're formed in the depths, and thus the Gaunt Man's location makes sense. There's one last similarity I'd also like to address, and that's the ability of the Cruons to use any attunement they like. Now, we don't see the Gaunt Man utilize any attunements of his own, but that's because this is the part of the video where we segue into talking about Frankenstein's Deep Owl. To be honest, I don't even know where to begin with this thing. It's a deep owl, but it's got 3 heads, and it's wielding shadowcast magic. Now, we can assume that this thing, it's officially called the Parliament, has been granted shadowcast by the Gaunt Man, further hinting that he's a Cruon. This deep owl has either been formed from scratch by the Gaunt Man, or it's a regular deep owl that's been captured and subjected to modifications. Regardless, it's pretty clear that the Gaunt Man can shape these monsters however he wants, especially considering we see a blob of malleable flesh on the floor every time a mob spawns. It's likely that he can essentially accelerate the evolutionary process. To elaborate on that, I've previously speculated that the Depths is essentially a pressure cooker of DNA, that it forces monsters to evolve in different ways. Following a few videos wherein I referenced that theory, we received the World Events update, and within it, the Interluminary Parasol, which essentially gave us an explanation for the strange evolution paths of Deepwoken monsters, especially those within the Depths. In case you don't remember, the Parasol acts as a cross-pollinator for various creatures that make their way from the Depths to Lumen, exchanging the traits and properties between them and dismantling ecosystems by injecting them into a competing niche. Basically, this is the same thing we see the Gaunt Man doing, except it's not just traits and properties, it's fusing of a much higher order. He's quite literally merged 3 owls together into this parliament thing and infused it with Shadowcast, not to mention the Vanta Black Drip Sharko that shoots lionfish beams. All of this makes it very clear that the Gaunt Man is a life form of higher order compared to the regular monsters of the Depths, undoubtedly a Cruon as it currently stands. Right, so the Gaunt Man is a Cruon, but what's the point of his experiment? What is he trying to achieve? He says it himself in his dialogue. He's attempting to test the lethality of the various forms of wildlife in this region, right? Well, not exactly. If you manage to overcome the Gaunt Man's test and defeat the electrified Scribbo, the Prime Megalodont, and the Parliament, he'll state the following. I have much to learn about your kind. Please do return for more experiments. This is very deliberate language. If he was truly attempting to gauge the lethality of these monsters, he would say that he has much to learn about them, not about our kind. I do think the Gaunt Man is trying to evaluate these monsters, don't get me wrong, but I also think there's more to it. He's not just investigating how lethal these monsters are, he's investigating how lethal they are to humans. Why? Well, think of it this way. We know the Depths are evil. We know that they're alive. We know that they're slowly subjugating the surface world by way of the ever-expanding Void Sea. I'll put it simply, I believe that the Gaunt Man is using the player character to develop stronger monsters capable of invading and taking over the surface world. In case you haven't noticed, the 3 monsters that the Gaunt Man throws at us are simply existing monsters with slight amendments. A Nautilodont capable of wielding Thundercore, a Megalodont capable of firing an energy beam, and a Deep Owl with 3 heads, capable of wielding Shadowcast. They're not making monsters, they're evolving them. The Fury Nautilodont was the prototype, the first monster the Gaunt Man mutated as a result of his testing. Perhaps these trials were much weaker before you showed up. Perhaps the Fury Nautilodont that you tore asunder still had blood on his tentacles from the last participant. Regardless, the Fury Nautilodont has already crept into the Depths trial, although perhaps that's intentional. You may wonder, if the goal of the Depths trial is to keep one held in the Depths, why not unleash stronger monsters like the Prime Megalodon or the Parliament, rather than some lowly enforcer? Well, perhaps that's intentional. Think about it this way. We fought Nautilodonts within the Depths trial and Sunken Celtor, and suddenly the electric Fury Nautilodont turned up. Perhaps these trials aren't weeding out the weak, they aren't tests of character. Perhaps they're just another evolution pressure cooker spawned by the Gaunt Man and his mysterious masters. I mean, toss some Nautilodonts in the trial. If a couple dies, so what? We'll learn how. And when we learn how, we'll make them even stronger. Standard Pathfinder's not doing it for us? Let's grab the Lone Warrior, make him take a trial against prototypes of mutated Sharkos and Owls, and if he dies, we learn. If we lose the prototypes, lose the testing sites, so what? We have the trial. We have the wastes. We have layers that stretch on for infinity. The Depths lives and the Depths learns. For one day, the Depths will repay your folly, for it never forgets. It only adapts. But dramatic monologue aside, there is one last thing I'd like to touch on here in relation to the Gaunt Man being a Cruon. He's recently had new dialogue added to his repertoire, likely after people started asking questions about how the hell he works lore-wise. He says the following when we ask him, who or what are you exactly? Let me try a metaphor. If you are a stalk of wheat, then I am a loaf of bread. This is a fitting analogy. The Gaunt Man's language is very deliberate here. While a stalk of wheat is one of the eventual components of a loaf of bread, it's not the only ingredient in a loaf. There's also water, salt, shortening, sugar, and baker's yeast in a typical white bread's formula. If we are but a stalk of wheat up in this loaf, this does indeed confirm that the Gaunt Man is a Cruon, as Cruons are composed of masses of souls within the depths. We, as a soul, are therefore a mere stalk compared to the multitude that make up the Gaunt Man. In addition, if we assume that the previously mentioned additives that are utilized to form a loaf of bread alongside wheat are relevant in this analogy, we can assume that souls in the depths may not be the only ingredient to compose a Cruon. I'm also pretty sure that the Gaunt Man uses the Ferryman's theme, so how many more comparisons can I draw? Jesus Christ. It's abundantly clear that the developers intended for this man to share God knows how many similarities with the only Cruon we see in-game. For whatever reason, these Cruons are making their presence known, and with them are monsters mutated beyond belief. Something's clearly shifting, but as for what that is, only the drowned gods know, and something's been telling me that they won't be making their ambitions clear for as long as we live. I've been Irma's Metal. Stay blessed. Remember to subscribe. God loves you. God, I'm sick as fuck.